Hello there folks, welcome back to the Chap's Guide. My name is Ash and I am your host on this journey through men's style, self-development and personal grooming. Now you join me on a brutally hot summer's day here in southern England. The sun is beating down and it is a perfect occasion perhaps to share with you another episode of our Am I a Chap video series, in which I take images which have been sent to me by viewers of this channel and pass my observations on their sartorial attire. Now, some quick disclaimers. I am not an expert. I am not a style guru. I'm an ordinary man who has been on a sartorial journey myself, and I am more than happy to share my thoughts and observations with you gentlemen. And it is no more than that, my thoughts and my opinions. So please take it for what it is, well-intentioned opinion. And there will be no negativity in this series either. I don't break people down and pull apart their appearance. This is all about providing positive reinforcement and useful suggestions as to how you may improve your appearance to the world and gain all the benefits that come from being an intentionally well-dressed man. If you would like to participate in this series, by all means, please send me your image and I will enter you into an episode in the future. Don't forget, you can either, well, the best way to send it to me is by using my email address, which you will find in the About section on the main YouTube page. That's the best way to send them in. And don't forget, an image incorporating the entirety of your body will be useful. Shoes to the top of your head, maybe a few other snaps if you wish, but the overall image in as high definition as possible is of greatest benefit. So today, I have three gentlemen who are heroes because they have sent me their image and they've asked for some thoughts and opinions, and I'm going to get straight on. And my first gentleman who has written to me today is a young man called Seb, or Sebastian. Seb, he calls himself, and basically he just says here, here's my submission. Unfortunately, it's only the top half in this photo, but you get the idea. So Seb, here we go. Seb has sent us an image merely from the chest upwards, but there is a lot to go on in this image, is there not? And you know, as usual, I don't just look at the image, I look at some of the tips and other things that I can gain about the person from the entire picture they've sent. And I don't know whether it's strategically placed, but just over Seb's left shoulder in the image, as we can see, is half of an image which comes from a Royal Air Force recruit training team picture, perhaps when one graduates from Royal Air Force training, and I can see, I'm going to make an assumption that Seb is in that picture. So if you are an RAF gentleman, well done to you, sir, per ardua ad astra. As a veteran Royal Air Force member, it's great to see somebody out there keeping the flame burning. And in Seb's image, as we can see, the first impression is perhaps of a smart young gentleman who has a preference for vintage-inspired clothing. And that is nice, it's rare to see. So, let's begin from the top and work down, shall we? And on his head, worn at a pleasing, jaunty angle, we can see Seb has the classic bowler hat. Although not so much classic, because it is not your sort of black, perhaps more corporate hat. We have what appears to be a grey hat with black accents. So the hat band is black and the lining around the brim of the hat, or the edging rather, is also black too, which I think makes it look a little more casual and a little more wearable in daily situations. Now, of course, the bowler hat is one of the most classic gentleman's dress hats. I own one myself and I absolutely love it. I think they're underrated and infrequently worn today, but I think they're an eminently wearable hat, and more so than some of the other more perhaps now older dress hats which are falling into abeyance, things like the fedora and the Homburg hat. The bowler, I think, still has a place. We just have to get the confidence to wear it again. The bowler's history goes back into 1849 when it was created by the brothers, I forget their names, Thomas and William Bowler, way back in London. And it looks great on this young gentleman here. And sitting atop his head. Now, I can't pass up the opportunity to compliment you on your grooming, sir. You've got a good shave going on. I like to see men who have shaved in the modern era, because I often find myself in a room maybe with 10 men and 8 of them today will be wearing some form of facial hair. So it is nice to see a cleanly shaved gentleman. Moving down the body, we see let's start with the shirt, shall we? You're wearing a shirt which appears to be vintage inspired. I don't know why I say that, but the thing that I notice most obviously is the fact that you're wearing a tie pin. The tie pin worn through the tie and the collar keeps the collar in check, and it also keeps the tie well placed. And it's a rarity, very much a rarity. You might see the tie bar being worn by a gentleman in the modern era, but the tie pin is something which delineates from somebody who likes dressing smartly to somebody who is sartorially inclined. And I know when I see somebody wearing a tie pin, it makes me think, ooh, let's pay some attention. This person has made an effort. And that's what sings out to me when I see your tie pin. And of course you're wearing it with what appears to be, I would say, a vintage or vintage inspired tie with asymmetric repeating pattern, but the pattern puts me in mind of certainly a tie from maybe the 1950s or maybe even earlier. It's absolutely in keeping with the remainder of your clothing and looks great worn with the tie pin, I have to say, or the collar pin. Looking at the jacket, which is really the only other thing that I can see today, again, it looks like quite a thick gauge check pattern. Could be a Prince of Wales check, but it's quite a conservative looking jacket in first sight, with peak lapels, and you know, that dark sort of grey colour. I'm saying grey, the sun is shining on my screen, but it looks like a grey colour with the much darker checking pattern throughout it. Again, puts me in mind of that vintage era from the 1950s, and it is absolutely in keeping with the remainder of your outfit and looks very good quality. I've no doubt it is an original vintage jacket, and no doubt it will last you decades still, because they were made to last back then. What I would say, what can I alter? Well, sir, you have missed out on the opportunity to wear a pocket square, and that would have really nailed home the look, because let's be honest, when we look back to the 50s, this is the golden age of men's clothing, where men absolutely were focused on every element of the accessories of their clothing, and no gentleman would have left the house without wearing a pocket square. So I would suggest that's something that you may consider including the next time you get dressed to go out and about. So my final observations overall: a really smart and sartorially well executed display for a gentleman who's trying to recapture that look from the golden era of the 50s and 60s. And let's be honest, you might think, well, who's going to dress like that in the modern world? I think this look is eminently presentable right now. This is the beauty of the 50s and 60s, maybe even the 40s. That style of clothing doesn't look out of place today. You know, styles are all over the place. There's no hard and fast route that people are taking with their clothing today, and that means a 1950s suit, a 1950s tie looks as at home today as it did way back then. So Seb, sir, you are a chap. Congratulations to somebody who may be in the RAF. You've nailed the look. Okay, now my second gentleman, who's very kindly sent their image along, is a regular contributor to the comments section on my videos. I converse with him all the time. It is Ron. Now, if I remember rightly, Ron hails from North America, and he sent me a number of images, kindly, but as usual, I'm going to focus on one, because, you know, we can't spend too much time looking at multiple images. But the one image I'm going to focus on, I think, is a really classic one. And what we see here is a gentleman who is classically attired in the country fashion, and somebody who knows how to make that look work for them. And yes, Ron, I think you've come across as the gentleman about to go out for a pheasant shoot on an English country estate. And if that's the look you've been going for, you've absolutely delivered it. So let us begin, this time from the ground up, unlike Seb, and let's see what we think about the way Ron is dressed. Well, let's look at the trousers. Ron is displaying for us what appears to be a burgundy coloured pair of moleskin non-pleated trousers, so flat-fronted trousers, which would be the classic selection for a hunting attire. Moleskin, of course, is just basically a very thick brushed cotton, normally thick gauge, and it is almost certainly generally favoured by people who enjoy spending time in the outdoors, because it's a natural fabric, it's cotton, and it's very finely weaved, so it makes it robust and very tough wearing. Keeps you warm as well on the cool days, but its fine weaving means that it offers an element of protection against brambles and other sort of foliage which is likely to, to catch in your clothing and try and damage it. So, and the colour, burgundy, it's a perfect match with the remainder of your outfit, and a great little execution there. So let's move up the body and start with the outer shell. Let's look at that coat, that jacket that you're wearing. And it appears to be a sort of a tweed, if I'm not right. It's a hunting jacket. Looking at the finer detail, we can see leather buttons displayed at the right cuff of the jacket, and we can see that the pockets are patch pockets with flaps, so plenty of room to put your shotgun cartridges, store them in there whilst you're out on your shoot, ready for the next targets to fly across the front of the gun for you. Also on the jacket, we can see at the elbow and at the right shoulder, of course, where the gun butt would rest in your shoulder when taking your shot, we see that there are protectors which are made in suede or some form of buckskin leather, which again offers that extra bit of protection to the jacket if you're resting your elbow when taking a shot, or as I say, the jacket might become worn or shiny with repeated use of the gun in the shoulder. These little things, they just exemplify what this jacket is all about. It's a shooting jacket. It is perfectly proportioned. It fits just well. The length is just right. It's a notch lapel, so it has that sort of nice modern element to it. It looks spot on. Ron, love the jacket. Looking under the jacket, what I can see is perhaps what is for me the signature piece in this ensemble of clothing, and that is a russet coloured waistcoat with lapels as well. So always like to see waistcoats with lapels, because if you were to discard the jacket on perhaps a warm day such as today, those lapels on the waistcoat give it an element of gravitas in its own right. It makes it an item that can be worn without the over jacket. So always nice to see. And that colour, rich, beautiful, matches the trousers, matches the other colour accents that you have included in the all-over collection of clothing. Under your waistcoat, I can see that you're wearing a tatisel shirt. Tatisel, of course, referring to the pattern, which is thin horizontal and vertical lines, normally of varying colours, which indicate that it's a tatisel style shirt. And tatisel shirts, again, often chosen by the countrymen because they're often found in flannel or in thicker gauge cotton, so they tend to be warmer. They offer protection for a man who is spending time outdoors, and often chosen by people to go shooting and hunting. And matched with that shirt, I can see a very nicely executed tie, predominantly red in colour with a bit of green, earth colours, which again match the elements of your wardrobe that are visible to us. 4-in-hand tie knot, it looks, nice dimple, well worn, really great selection of colours. They all marry beautifully well. Now, as ever, the devil is in the detail when it comes to a gentleman's collection of clothing. And when we nail down into Ron's look, The accessory, which we will overlook, of course, is the shotgun, because that's sort of part of the ensemble. But if we look at the pocket square is predominantly in orange. It is folded in what appears to be a sort of 3-peak or 2-peak pattern. So some effort has gone into the folding of the pocket square. The just exact amount that we would expect, from sort of 1/2 inch to 1 inch, raised above the line of the pocket so that we can see it. It looks just great. Those colours match with those earthy colours which we have, which are ideal for the outdoorsman, because if you're outdoors you want sort of muted earth colours, because if you're going shooting you don't want to wear colours which are not evident in nature, you know, your blues and things like that, because you know it's going to look out of place and the wildlife will spot it. They're incredibly instinctive creatures, and if they see something weird they're not going to go near it. So as a hunter you want to fit in. It's kind of a sartorial camouflage, and the orange works just well. And the final accessory, Ron, you might have thought I didn't notice it, but I can just see at your waistcoat, I can see that you're wearing a pocket watch. Undoubtedly, the gold chain we can see protruding from one of the buttonholes on your waistcoat is perhaps fitted to a pocket watch which is worn in the pocket of that waistcoat. What a classic look, ideal for a gentleman joining a shooting party at Downham, at Downton Abbey, and you really look the part. So yeah, thank you for sending that epitome of a countryman image in today, Ron. You are a chap, no doubt. Okay, now our third and final gentleman, a hero who has sent his image in, is Reg. Great name, sir. That's my father's name. And what does he tell me? I submit the following pics for your consideration for a chapness assessment. I realise that in the second picture my pocket square got away from me a bit. Well, I'll be the judge of that, sir. I love a good pocket square. We'll see what we've got here. Now, Reg has sent me 2 images which are quite similar, and I'll briefly comment on both, because, you know, I think there's some various value in both. Now, looking at the 2 images of Reg, my first observation is that this is an extremely dapper gentleman who's rocking a traditional classical look with a pretty good attention to detail, it is fair to say. Now let's look at this first image that we have here. Let's start as ever from the ground up, because the people you meet in life, that's often where they begin, their assessment of you. And when we look at Reg here, we can see that he is wearing a pair of quite dapper looking rich burgundy coloured full wingtip brogue shoes. First point I'd like to say, I love them. I love brogues. They bring texture and they bring pattern, and in this case you've also brought colour to your outfit. How much better is that than a black cap-toe Oxford, which is the epitome of plainness? A shoe like this brings so much to the party, particularly if you're relying on quite a standard suit. The shoe allows you to bring a flourish, and certainly these shoes do. Beautiful rich colour, and I like them. I don't know what brand they are. I like the hint of squareness to the toe. Now, if you like good quality men's shoes, you might be familiar with George Cleverley. They're a bespoke shoemaker in London, and they have a classic element to their shoes, a slightly squared toe, which they refer to as suspiciously square. Now, I don't know what brand these shoes are, but there is a lovely suspicious squareness to the toe, which for me is a sort of hint to a retro style, and I love it. If I could afford George Cleverley shoes, I'd be a very happy man, but these look wonderful. Moving up the body, I can see you've gone for a navy blue suit, and the trousers that I can see, you've got a slight turn up on the trouser, which is nice. You don't see that all that often today, particularly because I think increasingly men are opting for very tapered legs on their trousers, and that does away with the option really to have a decent turn up. but it looks so classic on yours. And the trouser is a nice fit. It's not baggy, it's not too tight. It's a lovely drape. The break of the trouser is just within the lacing system of the shoe. You can see it's on the lacing. That is where I would seek to get the break of my trousers. I don't like to have trousers which are too long and you see the material pooling at the ankle. I don't like them too short, where the trouser sits proud of the shoe and shows a bit of ankle, a bit of sock. So for me, that is a great break. Moving up the body, I can see that you have a classic three-piece suit going on. So I can see that you've got the jacket, single-breasted. It is a notch lapel and it is a flat pocket. I can see you've got a ticket pocket on the right-hand side, which is a lovely little element of style. Always nice to add that. The length of the sleeve, perfect for me. That's where I would seek it to be, clear of the hand, allowing just the merest hint of the cuff of your shirt to be visible. And on both of your sleeves, I can just see your shirt when you're in stood upright position. So of course, when you move your hands forward, more of the shirt cuff will be displayed because the jacket is pulled further up the arm by the bending of the elbow. So that is just about perfect. Let me just zoom in so I can get a better look of it. The waistcoat is nicely, it's quite a high waistcoat, I notice, quite high up the body, so the aperture doesn't allow a great deal of the tie and shirt to be displayed. But yep, looks good. All nicely fitting. Pocket square, puff pattern, nice light, it could be a light blue, which looks to be an appropriate colour for the rest of the outfit that you're wearing. Looks good, sir. Looks very nice indeed, I have to say. The shirt and the tie. Now, this is perhaps the only area where I can see a room for improvement, because the shirt, to me, the collar, shirt is perfect incidentally, nice shirt, utterly devoid of pattern, which is a perfect blank canvas for the rest of your clothing. But what I see is the collar seems to be not laying as one might expect. I can see you've got a broad neck, and perhaps you've chosen a shirt collar which looks a little large for a comfortable fit. But I can see that it's puckering a bit. It doesn't seem to be lying in a way which looks comfortable or looks great. My observation here, perhaps you might want to go down a size on your shirt collar, maybe. As an alternative to that, I don't know if your shirt is fitted with the option, but collar stays, the little collar stay pockets you'll find inside the shirt collar, that may allow a bit more structural integrity to the front of your shirt, which will allow it to sit more flat to the front of your clothing, and again may just give that final touch. And the tie, a 4-in-hand knot, I can see. For me, with the really classic look, a half Windsor would be where I'm going here, because it's a very broad spread on your collar, I notice. So there's a lot of empty space there in front of the collar, and as a consequence we can see that where the tie fits into the knot, it's clearly visible. So for me, I would have opted for either a full Windsor or a half Windsor, because you've got a symmetrical triangular knot there which will fill more of the gap when it comes to that shirt collar. But otherwise, I love the look. It's really good. And I will quickly just nip into your next image, because I think that's also a very stylish look. Different suit this time, a little bit more modern, I would go as far to say, because it also appears to be a navy blue suit, but this time very broad peak lapels opposed to the notch lapels in your last suit. And this for me is a bit more fashion forward. This would be ideal for occasions, perhaps a little bit less formal, a little bit more, cool and trendy, because they are quite broad lapels, and we can see the top of the peak lapel sort of standing proud of the suit. Otherwise, suit looks good. The sleeve length maybe a little short. There's a lot of that shirt cuff displayed, and I don't know, it's hard to tell, but it seems to be quite far up the wrist from your hand. I'll leave it to you. You can draw that conclusion yourself. What else can I see here? Club tie worn in the 4-in-hand, but do you see this time? The collar, again, has got a few little puckers, wrinkles in it, I think a collar stay would make this look perfect. But this time you've got a much closer spread on the collar, whereas that 4-in-hand fills that gap much more readily and looks like the better tie knot selection for the shirt. You mentioned in your covering letter you think that the pocket square got away with you a little bit. Maybe just a touch, but I think wearing that white pocket square, it's such a stark contrast with the suit. It looks perfect. I love it. It's a bit ebullient. It shows a bit of your character. It's going to draw the eye, which is perfect because, you know, the suit in itself is a pretty standard navy blue corporate style suit. So the pocket square draws the attention straight away. It lets people know you're a sartorially inclined man. My other observation with this ensemble just goes far as to say, I note you're wearing a gold and white faced dress watch at your left wrist, most likely on a leather band. Perfect, classical for the outfit that you're wearing, can't fault that. I also love the umbrella, which is an absolutely necessary accessory in my country, but it looks the part. But the tie, I'll make an observation about the tie. You're wearing a club tie, but the predominant colour of which is navy blue, and your suit is navy blue. I think you've missed the opportunity to bring some punch to the outfit. For me, I would have worn a burgundy tie here. My choice. I know you choose what you like, but for me, burgundy is the perfect accompaniment to a rich navy blue, and that exact tie, but with a burgundy colour, would have been the cherry on the cake for me personally, and I think it would have just added to the ensemble in a very positive way. But Reg, I think you are clearly a very dapper chap, and of course you are a chap indeed, so thank you for sending the images in. So gentlemen, I hope you've enjoyed this volume of Am I a Chap? Of course, it's my pleasure to pass my observations, and I hope the little tips and hints that I have offered might suggest to the gentleman that there's an alternative route they can go to being the ultimately sartorially well-dressed, intentionally smart man. If you've enjoyed this video, by all means, give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to practically support the channel, you can buy me a coffee and you'll find the link for that in the show notes below. And if you'd like to join me in future videos, click the red button, become a subscriber. If you would like your image to feature on Am I a Chap, drop me that email. Again, the email address is in the About section on the main YouTube page. Many of you have sent me your images. Many of you, but I am working my way through 3 at a time, and I am going to get through them all eventually. So thank you for your contributions. It's my pleasure to offer you my suggestion of chapness. Continue